Yeah, it is a worry. I said a year ago that the idea of not putting a lot of detail out there around what sort of a voice they'd want to legislate, Katie, would be a problem for the Yes campaign. And here we are 2 weeks out. It's too late to put that detail out there. But I do think he's right when it comes to the misinformation. And to me, the biggest misinformation in this whole debate is the main no claim, and that is that a voice is racially divisive and it's a racist thing. I've just heard Andrew Bolt going on about that for the past hour. I think that is just essentially so untrue and so wrong to characterise something that is about bringing Indigenous Australians and the rest of Australia together to trying to help close the gap and to allow Indigenous people to have actually a say on those matters directly affecting them. To describe that as racially divisive, I think is completely erroneous. And that's been the foundation of the opposition argument.
Yeah, look, I don't think that The Voice is going to be racially divisive. And I really hope that, that if The Voice gets up, what it actually does is bridges that gap that we've got. I think that we've all spoken about this on so many different occasions and why we do or don't believe in it. But what the Prime Minister is essentially asking Australians to do right now is to trust him. And Australians by nature, whether we like it or not, don't really trust our politicians. And so when you don't get that information that you're sort of after, you, like Ali said, you sort of go with what you know. And they failed to sort of fill that void. And I think if they can't explain to Australians exactly how it's going to work and how it's going to benefit Aboriginal people on the ground in places like the Northern Territory, they're going to struggle to get people to vote yes in a couple of weeks' time, or if they rock up early. I mean, the polls opened in the Territory today. But I agree with you, Chris. I don't buy the argument that The Voice is going to be racially divisive. But my concern at the moment is that there's a huge lack of information that's not being filled. And unless the Prime Minister can actually explain to Australians how it's going to work and do it in a way that's really sort of simple to understand and can get that point across and do it really quickly, he's got a couple of weeks and that last-ditched effort. But I just don't know how he's going to go.
Yeah, pretty half. Like a Nathan Cleary-like effort, I think, in the last 20 minutes of the referendum. Look, the number one issue in the country, we all agree what the number one issue in the country is, and that is the cost of living. I think if the referendum goes down, you'll see the Prime Minister and everybody else switch to that instantly. The focus there will be dramatic. But, Ali, we've got these new figures out, new research today showing us that people's credit card debt is going up. Their savings are going down. What a horrible situation where people are basically having to put stuff on the credit card because they can't pay their power bills and their grocery bills.
I mean, and that is absolutely no surprise. They don't have a choice. I had to leave my bag with my little fellow when we went away for the weekend, and I said, listen, if anyone wants to take my bag, let them, because all there is debt and bills in there. That's the space it seems to be at. But if you don't have a choice, all you're going to do is be able to do that, and you'll get yourself into more and more and more trouble.
Yeah, and Katie, how are you seeing it in Darwin, the cost of living? I think the real worry at the moment, right, is petrol prices are so high, they're affecting everyone, but they're driving up the cost of everything else. So while that hurts everyone more, that's actually going to try and encourage the Reserve Bank to put up interest rates again.
Yeah, and then take that a step further and imagine what it's like to transport, your fruit and veggies and things like that to the Northern Territory if they're not grown locally. And the cost then when you go to pay for your groceries for a normal family, you go and buy 5 things and it costs you $60. It is a huge impost for the real, like we know that a lot of lower income earners have been struggling for some time, but I think the thing that we're starting to see now is that middle income earners or those middle class are really starting to struggle. And like you said, things like your petrol, things like groceries, things like your rent or your mortgage, they are all having a massive impact for middle Australia. And I just don't know what it's going to mean for people if they're not able to hang on to their homes, if they're not able to pay their home loans and things like that. What's it then going to mean in terms of some of the other issues that we're having with homelessness and people not being able to find affordable accommodation?